A powerful iPhone hacking technique known as DarkSword has been discovered in use by Russian hackers. It can take over devices running iOS 18 that simply visit infected websites.
This disclosure, I should say, came from Google as well as iVerify and another firm called Lookout. This is a quote from one of iVerify's people. It says, instead of a spyware payload to brute force your way through the file system, which leaves tons of artifacts of exploitation that are pretty easy to detect, this just uses system processes the way they're meant to be used, and it leaves far fewer traces. The upside there is that it does not persist after a reboot. Instead, it steals data from the phone within the first few minutes after it's hacked. I've said this in the past, like when Pegasus first came to light and everything, a lot of people were like, oh no, how do I know I'm infected? And we used to say, like, you're probably not, because this is not something they're going to burn on any random person. They're going to use this on like lawyers and activists and political figures, journalists, dissidents. This DarkSword one, iVerify's Cole argues that the fact that it was used so brazenly with no real attempt to prevent its discovery suggests that hacking techniques are now attainable on the black market, attainable enough that hackers are willing to use them indiscriminately, even if the result is their exposure. He says, if one gets burned, I'll just go buy another one. They know that there's more where this came from. I still think the risk of falling to some of these malware is pretty low, but it does seem to be increasing, which unfortunately is something we see historically. The last thing I want to touch on that was in the story, this only works on iOS 18. This is the previous major version of iOS. Apple confirms that about a quarter of all their devices are still running iOS. And just for context, according to one source, there's 1.5 billion iOS devices out there right now in active use. So a quarter of those is still like 300 million, which is like the entire population of the US. It is really important to keep your stuff updated. Apple did push out an update to devices that are not able to update to iOS 26. So if you're sitting here and you're just like, I can't update, dude, like, well, make sure you get that update at least, because that would be helpful. Personal pet peeve. I see some people in the comments sometimes that are like, well, I'm still on Android 12 because I don't want the AI stuff. And it's like, I respect that you don't want the AI stuff, and I'm not telling you should just embrace it. But at that point, maybe you should be looking into like alternative ROMs or moving to a more trusted OS, because yeah, sometimes these security updates really are important.
I think a lot of people probably wouldn't have been affected by this if they were running lockdown mode, because it does sound like that would probably block the exploit chain. I know on Graphene OS they use like MT on the browser and a bunch of other protections. So I think reducing the attack surface and just in time is also commonly exploited JavaScript. Disabling a lot of those things can help, but it's usually these things that like are there for like web convenience. They're not actually there to protect you. There was another thing that they also said, basically because they didn't obfuscate the JavaScript, it basically was sitting on the website and a bunch of other groups were stealing the code to use as well. So be on the lookout because people are definitely using this. So make sure you're updated, make sure you're using lockdown mode if you're thinking you might be a target of this. But it does seem like this is like a very, like they're trying to target a lot of people with this. It's not like it's not specifically targeted towards a single individual.
That's an important piece of context, is the whoever got a hold of this, which I think was Russia, like you said, they kind of left it out in the open. So originally they were using it specifically on like Ukrainian news sites, Ukrainian government sites, like they were clearly targeting Ukrainians. But now that they just left it out there unsecured and anybody can go grab it, and there's like comments in the code about what each module does and how to use it. So they made it so easy now, and now it's out there in the wild, and who knows where it'll pop up.